Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by Saute or Fricassee, testing the fire alarm and testing me. Going back about 16 years, I worked in an entry-level admin job which included taking phone calls from people wanting repairs to their social housing. Lots of angry people calling. Being the helpful young chap I was, I also volunteered to test the fire alarm in the building with a couple of other colleagues. This was done at 9 a.m. every Monday morning. One morning, I'd had a particularly obnoxious caller and didn't get off the phone until about 9:15 a.m. Straight after, I made my way to the alarm panel at the other end of the building and we did the test. No issues, or so I thought. Few hours later, my manager calls me to go see her. She is fairly new. Turns out, she wants to point out the importance of doing the alarm on time. I shouldn't be late doing it, and that I should organize my time better, etc. I tell her the best option is if I stop doing the tests, since I can't guarantee I am always free at 9 a.m. For example, if someone calls at 8:40 a.m. and chews my ear off for 30 minutes, I am definitely not gonna put them on hold and piss them off more. Manager says I should stop spitting my dummy out and being sulky and petulant. I agreed that I would carry out the tests at 9 a.m. sharp in the future. Next few weeks pass, and the manager is getting complaints from callers that either they get cut off or inexplicably put on hold. She notices this happens around 9 a.m. Mondays, and the complaints all relate to calls involving me. Yep. I was either just cutting callers off completely or putting them on hold for however long it took to make sure that alarm was done at 9 a.m. Any callers wanting to speak to my manager? But of course, sir/madam, here are her contact details. Needless to say, I stopped having to do the alarm and my manager had to do it instead as nobody else was able to. Manager and I continued to work for the same employer, although I went off in a different team. We bumped into one another on training courses, etc. for some time, and she was always frosty, had a reputation for it by that time. Until recently when she was laid off, and I did not find it hilarious at all. What do you guys think is better? Putting anyone on that call straight to hold when you go to test the alarm? Or keeping them on and you set the phone off to the side and you just let the alarm blare while they're on the call? Let me know in the comments down below. I feel like if the manager kept letting this go on the way it was, maybe it would have reached the latter point. Our next story is by Neuron Sauce. Nothing says I can't wear a beard net with the rest of the guys. 25, female. During undergrad, I worked at a deli in a major supermarket. Most of my coworkers were also in college, and we all got along and generally had a good time. We usually didn't have too much trouble, but for some reason, a couple of managers had decided that they didn't like one of my coworkers. Let's call him Corey. They would nitpick his work and give him a hard time for things the rest of us never got in trouble for. One morning, they decided that his 5 o'clock shadow warranted a beard net. Now, this was an unusual request considering that 1, no one without a beard had ever been told to do this before, and 2, he barely had any stubble, and 3, they made a big deal about it and seemed to be trying to make him feel bad about it. Cue the malicious compliance. Managers aside, I was the only female employee in the department at the time. So I stroll up and ask what's going on. They point out his stubble. I respond that I'm certain that I have eyebrow hairs longer than that, and in mock concern, I ask if I should be wearing my hairnet over them. They sort of look at each other and hesitantly say, "No, you don't need to do that." I ask why not, because it's likely that my eyebrow hairs would be in someone's food if we're worried about chin stubble. They persist that no, I shouldn't worry about it. Then I ask about the fine hairs on a woman's face. What about those? Should I be shaving? They're catching on now. They tell him to put on a beard net and leave. He does, and so do I. Solidarity. I don't think I've seen so many people double take and start laughing before. The customers and my indirect managers thought it was hilarious. When they would ask me about it, I would just say that I was protecting the food in the store from any potential hairs, real or imagined. By noon, when the original pair of managers returned, I was having a very good day. They begged me to take the beard net off, and I pointed out that there was nothing in the store policy saying that I couldn't wear PPE, which included beard nets. I wore it until the end of my shift that day. They never bothered Corey about his stubble after that. So I did a quick Google just for fun, and it says that it actually is still advisable to wear a beard net if you have stubble, just because beards in general, even if it's just stubble, has a much greater tendency to hold on to more bacteria than a clean-shaven face. So it helps in mitigating the risk of contamination from the bacteria, not the actual hairs falling into whatever food. Our next story is by Mirzik69, Whatever the Customer Wants. Oh really? Okay then. It's your loss. Hello Reddit, when I was younger I used to work for a diner. I would like to think I was a good worker and looked out for the interest of the business over the customers because sometimes the customers demand ridiculous things that are not on the menu or things the restaurant will definitely lose money on. Anyway, so at this diner we used to make fresh juices, which was a big craze at the time, everyone trying to juice and be healthy. The boss was in deep debt, so he was always kissing people's butt to keep the business going. One day, this lady, notorious for being a pain in the butt, walks in and says she wants to try a fresh juice because she started working out, blah blah blah. So I said, okay, no problem, what would you like in your juice? She replies, I want a juice with only spinach. I said, I'm sorry, but that's not possible. She insisted and I refused. She walked away upset. Before you ask, for those of you who don't have experience juicing, I can tell you that making pure spinach juice is a bad business decision on the restaurant's part because it takes a ton of spinach to make a 16-ounce glass of juice. I'm not exaggerating. It would take me 3 huge bags that could make maybe 10 salads apiece just to make one juice. So that's 30 meals consisting primarily of spinach just to make one juice cup. So anyway, next morning, my boss comes in and says to me that the lady was complaining about me and saying that I refused to serve her. So I tried to explain to him, but he stopped me and said that whatever the customers want is what I should give. He pretty much said, you're here for a certain job, if you don't want to do it, go home. So I said, fine, you're the boss. She comes in later that day and asks for an all spinach juice. So I do as I'm told. I went to the basement, got 3 super-sized bags of spinach, and started to throw them in the juicer by the fistful. As I'm about to finish, my boss is coming upstairs and sees what I'm doing and immediately flips the freak out. What the heck do you think you're doing? I said, exactly what you told me to do, to make the juice for that crazy lady. He says, are you freaking stupid? Look at all the spinach you're wasting. Me again. Well, I tried to tell you, but you didn't want to hear it. He ended up banning the lady from the restaurant entirely, and I was happy he felt as frustrated as I did when he scolded me for refusing something which was in his benefit. I get that they were tight on money and it's a stressful situation to manage it, and you don't want to upset any paying customer, but if an employee didn't do something because they were concerned about something, it's a good idea to hear them out on what their concern was before you make a final judgment and order them to do something entirely different. This next story is by Toasted Maple. Sorry, but only the coordinators get to eat these. I used to work as a care coordinator, scheduling nurses and PSWS to private homes. I had hundreds of staff and thousands of clients to schedule daily, and that was just what I had to cover, let alone my other 8 coordinators who worked alongside with me with their own locations to schedule. We worked together for 8 years, and it always seemed that the nurse managers got special treatment, although we definitely were doing the brunt of the work. These nurses did not do nurse work, but rather go out once in a while or just call a client, talk to them, and then write down, yes, they still need care. Anytime the coordinators would put together money for a pizza day or donut day, our nurse managers insisted that had to be included in getting the free food, even though they never contributed. Our office manager made sure to have us include the nurses whenever we bought food for ourselves, but they never had to share with us. If the nurses decided to order pizza, which the company paid for every time, the coordinators were not allowed any. They started putting the nurse's pizza in a small room locked so we couldn't get to it, but eventually started using our lunchroom to keep the pizza there and just had a sign, "Nurses only." This was happening every month and a bit. So finally at the end of my coordinator career and basically being freaking fed up with this crap hole company, I decided, freak you, and started bringing in food for the coordinators. Donuts and desserts I'd make myself. I ended up just keeping the food at my desk and had a sign on it saying, "Only coordinators." The nurses would come over to grab some, and I would tell them, "Oh, this isn't for you, you're a nurse, not a coordinator." They went to HR and tried to get me in crap, but I had so many documented dates of how the nurses got paid by company lunches and had the coordinators pay solely for pizza days and whatever where they took food they didn't help with. The HR just let it go. I quit soon after, thank God. Seems to me that the nurses got this kind of superiority complex, where they felt all high and mighty and, oh, we do all this hard work even though they're fake nurses. Us fake nurses slave away so hard all day long, none of the coordinators can have any of our pizza, we don't want to share with them. But wait, the coordinators ordered pizza? Well, we deserve some of that. I mean, how much more hypocritical can you get? And our final story of the day is by Angry Arm Hair. Sell as many great buy product replacement policies as possible? Alrighty then. This was about 10 years ago when I worked at Great Buy. Every morning we were pressured into selling these ridiculous insurance plans that rarely paid off for the customers. We had high margins on these plans. However, we were not on commission, so there was very little incentive to actually sell these, except management constantly pressured us to sell them. Every morning, we had our morning meeting, and they would scold all the employees for not selling enough. You took trainings, and they tried to brainwash you into thinking the plans were worthwhile and in the customer's best interests. Well, I luckily only needed this job to fill an employment gap while I was going to college. So I didn't care to sell these things unless I was asked by a customer if there was coverage for accidental damage or that sort of thing. Naturally, management was always on my case for not selling any plans. Sometimes they'd give me some space to discount certain products to sort of half the cost of the plans. Some customers liked this, so I'd always try to bundle it like that to avoid ripping off the customers who actually wanted the plans. We weren't supposed to sell the plans on fruit products if we were combining with a discount since we basically got zero margin on those. Well, I stopped caring about those restrictions and started selling discounted fruit products with the insurance plans. After a couple of weeks of selling tons of these close to when I wanted to quit, folks loved getting discounted fruit products and started telling friends. I got pulled into the office by management who looked incredibly frustrated. There were some discrepancies in the store's revenue because we had been losing profit on fruit products. They had traced it back to me giving discounts. They said to not bother with selling the plans anymore until I had retaken the trainings on the plans, and if I failed again, they'd put me on a performance improvement plan. I shortly gave my 2 weeks notice. I hate retail. There's definitely a lot of things to not like being an employee in the retail sector, especially something that's majorly franchised like Great Buy is. All this pressure to sell stuff that just preys on the customer because, let's be real, 95% of the time, nobody's going to be using those warranties they paid for. You see it all the time even on sites like Amazon. You go to check out for some kind of electronic and it's like, buy this 4-year warranty plan? Let's be real, 2 years into using it, if it breaks, you're not even going to remember that you had a warranty plan for it. And then on top of that, a lot of these warranty things want you to have proof of warranty and forms and papers and, oh, well, you needed to sign up for this online at this website we listed here in the description 2 years ago when you bought it and blah, blah, blah. And that's just warranties. There's way more stuff that's bad with working retail. But I digress. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.